When I was asleep, a sheep came along and ate the ivy wreath from my head. As it ate, it said, "Zarathustra is no longer a scholar." It said this proudly and awkwardly and wandered off. A child later told me about it. I enjoy lying here, where the children play, by the ruined wall, among the thistles and red poppies. To the children, and to the thistles and poppies, I'm still a scholar. They're innocent, even when they're mischievous. But to the sheep, I'm no longer a scholar, and I'm fine with that. That's just the way things are. Blessings upon it, because here's the truth. I've left the scholars behind, and I slammed the door on my way out. I spent too long sitting, hungry at their table. I never learned to crack nuts like they do, to investigate in the same way. I love freedom and fresh air, open fields. I'd rather sleep on rough ox skins than on the comforts of their honors and titles. My own thoughts are too intense. They often burn me up from within. Sometimes I can barely breathe because of them. That's when I need to go outside, away from their dusty rooms. But the scholars sit cool in the shade. They just want to be spectators, keeping a distance from where the sun burns hottest. They stand like those people on the street who just watch others go by. They wait and gawk at the thoughts other people have had. And if you try to grab hold of them, they puff up and raise a cloud of dust like flour sacks. But who would guess that their dust comes from the fields, from the joy of the summer's harvest? When they present themselves as wise, their small sayings and truths make me shiver. Their wisdom often smells like it came from a swamp. I've even heard frogs croaking in it. They're clever, I'll give them that. Their fingers are nimble. What can my simplicity do compared to their complexity? They know how to thread, knit, and weave with their minds, spinning the hose of the spirit. They're like well-made clocks. Just make sure to wind them up properly. Then they'll tell the time without fail and make a modest ticking sound while they do it. They work like millstones and pestles. Just toss them some grain. They know how to grind it down into fine dust. They keep a sharp eye on each other and don't really trust one another. They're crafty, waiting for knowledge that's limping along, like spiders waiting in their webs. I always saw them carefully preparing their poisons, wearing glass gloves while they worked. They even know how to play with loaded dice, and they get so excited while cheating that they start to sweat. We're strangers to each other. I find their virtues even more distasteful than their falsehoods and trickery. When I lived among them, I always felt like I was living above them. And that's why they didn't like me. They don't want to hear about anyone walking above them. So they put wood, dirt, and garbage between my footsteps and their heads. They try to muffle the sound of my steps, and the most learned among them barely heard me at all. They threw all of humanity's faults and weaknesses between themselves and me. They called it a false ceiling in their houses. But even so, I walked with my thoughts above their heads. Even if I walk on my own mistakes, I'm still walking above them. Because men are not equal. Justice tells me that. And what I will, they cannot will. Thus spoke Zarathustra.